Hi, it is Robbie from Southern California, and today I'm going to talk tomatoes, just tomatoes. And what I really want to talk about is trimming your tomatoes, propagating tomatoes, and cutting off suckers. Well, what you see in front of you are two tomato plants. One is a 100s, these are cherry type tomatoes, and one is a sun gold. Let me tell you something. If I would trim my tomato plants, I would have maybe a tenth of what's on there. You don't trim indeterminate tomato plants unless you want to. It's your tomato plants if that's what you want to do. Let me tell you something. The best thing to do if you want to trim any of these suckers off is to root them. And I'm going to show you exactly how to make one tomato plant into as many tomato plants as you want. So here I am with a tomato plant that I propagated. This one I bought at the store. This is a determinate, and it's continuously growing tomatoes, and I have not trimmed it. I don't trim my plants. Okay, that's not completely true because I just trimmed one off of one of these plants. Now this is a larger sucker. This is what you don't really want to trim. See the tomatoes that are starting to grow in it, the flowers? If you continue to trim your plants, you won't have as many tomatoes. If that's the way you want it, then go ahead and trim your plants. Some people want large tomatoes. They're not growing cherry tomatoes. They're smaller varieties. And so they want to trim them up so they get a few really big, large ones. You can get 2, 5, sometimes 7. But with the smaller type tomatoes, I mean, you saw on one of these plants, if you saw the video before, I had what, almost a dozen tomatoes on this little plant. The thing is, every time you trim a sucker, you are trimming off your future tomatoes when it's an indeterminate plant. It continues to grow, send out shoots on the side, and grow. It grows tomatoes. So that's up to you if you want to trim them. Now, what you can do is, like I said, trim off a sucker on there. You get lots of suckers, and let's say you want to shape the plant. That's really good. So you take off something like this, and this is exactly what you do. Just trim off the leaves. Now this is pretty big, but it will still work. You don't need all these leaves, and I definitely would take off the tomatoes that are starting because you're not going to get to tomatoes on this plant. Now, if you really want this to root this size, I would take off a little bit more of the leaves. You don't need all that leaf matter because what you want is this to root. And I would trim off the bottom one more time, and then I would stick it in something with water. You can do it in soil, but I like doing it in water. Now, you know, a lot of you have vitamins. You take vitamins or medication or something. Don't throw these bottles away. Spice bottles are wonderful. Look, these are spice bottles. You don't want to throw that away. Now, this is what I love about it. This you compost. See this? These are suckers. Look at this. Look at the roots. Can you see this? And it's already trying to grow more tomatoes. I would take that off when I go to plant it because we want it to now grow roots. But look at this. These are so cool. I keep them on my windowsill. Here's one I just cut the other day. See how I cut the long leaf off? I left a little bit of leaf matter. These are wonderful, and you can label it. This is a 100s. I bought one 100s, those cherry tomatoes that grow tons and tons of tomatoes. I bought one plant, and I'm growing them all over. Here's one. I've got another one in the garden. I'll probably end up moving this in the garden unless I leave it on the deck. I'm not sure. Here's a vitamin, a calcium. Look, any of them will do. And what's, like I said, beautiful is you can label them so you'll remember what they are. This is why you want to trim your tomatoes, to produce more tomatoes. I don't want to trim my tomatoes. I want to grow as many tomatoes as possible. So I would get water in this right away. Now and then I would let it root. Now you don't have to do it that way, but you can. The other thing you can do is as soon as you see roots starting on it, either one of these will do, you can even pot it up. Let me see if I've got a spoon. Here's some soil. Use whatever soil you want. Get in there, make a big hole. There's no leaves on the bottom. I could take this little bit off here now. Any leaves that don't look that good, I can take off. Get that way in there, and then I can start it in here and move it out later wherever I decide I want it. And there it is. Now, in the meantime, till it really sets root or until I know where to put it, I can put it in here with my tomato plant. Water this and it will take care of the tomato plant that's already growing tomatoes already. And as well, this becomes like a mulch. It's going to stay damp and help the tomato plant out. You can always do a 2-system. If you guys are into 2 systems, you know how that is. You put leaf matter or whatever, kitchen scraps in here. You fill that up with kitchen scraps, throw a handful of soil in there so your earthworms will come. If you can find earthworms, it's even better. Then in here, put some soil and plant. Look at this. You don't even need this. If you don't want to use this, there's your 2 system. And now I can sit that in there with leaf matter and that will work too. So I hope I've given you some ideas on what type of cups you can use to start your plants, which is, like I said, spice bottles are fantastic and vitamin bottles. And think about it if you want to really trim your plants or not. That's up to you. I'm never going to tell you not to. I would trim off the base. So this is my little propagating table. I'm starting to do purple tree color, and I know some things have got to it, but I don't worry about that. My main thing is getting it rooted. Look, I've got ginger, but this is what I wanted to show you. This is a tomato plant that came up in the soil I'm using as I fill my milk cartons, see? Now, let me move this out of the way so you can see this. When you want to trim a plant, you want to go on the bottom. See, what you wanted to do is you want to have a nice airflow around the main part of the trunk. See the trichomes there? Did a whole video on that. Doesn't mean it's going to grow roots. That has nothing to do with roots. It goes all the way up the leaves. Everything's got trichomes. Even the leaves have got trichomes. You might be able to just see them. See right there? That fuzz? Now what I like to do is if I was going to replant this and take it out of here, which I will have to do sometime soon, I will probably bury it to the first notch where the leaf grows. But right now, let's say I was going to leave it there. Who knows? This drains. Maybe I'll just fill it with soil. I would take these leaves off. I would want the trunk to be able to get good airflow. That's the only thing that I would take off. Okay? Just that. Now, if it starts to grow, let's say suckers down here, yes, these little ones are suckers down there, I would take those off. I don't want to damage the trunk too much. Now I would let it grow up. I would stake this and let all the side shoots grow. You want airflow around the bottom where the soil is. You want to make sure it doesn't get too humid and wet, where it doesn't grow any fungus, and that sometimes causes spider mite and different things. And keep the plant healthy that way. That's the only part I would trim. Now, if you trim from the top, it will get more side shoots, but it doesn't mean it's going to do that much better. It's just going to grow more on the top. You can trim some of the leaves back. You can always go halfway, because what you want to do is have good airflow through the plant. But that's all I would trim off, and I would bury it, like I said, to around, let me move my plant there. Oh, maybe 2-3 inches there, and that's as far down. I would not do the whole stem. I know a lot of people want to bury their whole plant down because it's going to be more root production. Let me tell you something. Plant doesn't need it. It's going to get plenty of root production by just burying a little bit. Sometimes you can end up rotting out the plant. And that's basically it. Good airflow through the plant. Now, that is the lower leaves all the way down. You want to trim the lower leaves because you want to keep a good airflow on the bottom. So you want the stem to be clean, and if it gets too bushy, really bushy, you can go in there and trim off anything that doesn't look that good or anything that you may not need, which should not be suckers, but you want to maybe trim some of the larger leaves and just trim them back. Anything that's yellowing, take it off. It's not going to turn green. Once it's yellow, it's on its way out. And that is how you not only grow your tomato plants, boy, you go, Wendy, and that's how you propagate it. So with that, have a wonderful, wonderful day. And don't forget to eat what you grow. And my goodness, they're ready to eat already. You know what I do sometimes before I eat them? I squeeze the seeds around. And then I wonder, why are there tomato plants growing in there? Bye-bye. I think I will put a 2-system in there. And then you'll just burst into more tomatoes. Love these.